My name is Shep Zitler, Z-I-T-L-E-R. Shep, short for shepherd, S-H-E-P. I was born in Vilna, Poland, May the 27, 1917. Right during the First World War. 21 years I was living in Poland. I had one brother and four sisters, my mother and my father, and of course, brother-in-laws, and so on.
And you're the only survivor?
I'm the only survivor in the time of the war since 1939. But I had a brother who left Vilna, my hometown, in 1933 for Palestine. Then I had a sister, an older sister. The brother was also older than my sister. I had an older sister. Then she left for Palestine in 1936. And because in her honor, they made a picture in 1936, the whole family, and I'm there too. So everybody that was staying in 1939, my three other sisters, with their husbands, with their children, my parents, none of them died a normal death. They were all killed by the Nazis in different ways.
Shep, you joined the Polish army in the summer of 1939.
First, I didn't join the Polish army. Why would I join the Polish army? I hated the Polish army, and I wouldn't join them. I was drafted in the Polish army. I was 21 years old, and physically I was okay, so they drafted me in the Polish army. That was around February or March in 1939. The war broke out September the 1st, 1939. So when I was already 6 months in the Polish army, and then where my hell started, because of the tremendous anti-Semitism, which I didn't felt it as living in Vilna, but I did felt it being in the Polish army. And to give you an example, we had a lieutenant by the name of Walczak, 6 foot tall, a handsome fella, and he had assigned before the war by his office in Polish, and translated in English would be then for Jews and dogs, the entry is forbidden. That was, at that time, they came at Passover. Poland was a democratic country, and all the Jews had to observe Passover, like the Seders and so on. We were then the first year in the Polish army as draftees. We couldn't go on our own. So 4 miles from our camp, they made a Seder, and for 8 days we marched to the Seder, and we had a good meal, a Jewish kosher meal, and then we came back to the barracks. So the sergeant says to us, "It's not my fault, but I have orders from the lieutenant and from higher, we have to give you a drill." And all the Poles were looking about, and for 3 hours every day we had a drill. And so it wasn't that nice to have, it wasn't that comfortable to have the good meal, and then we came back and we had a drill because we were Jews. That he could do. He had to send us to eat the masses.
But that was to harass you and to humiliate you.
Absolutely.
And then the war breaks out, and you're on the
And
same
the war break
side.
out, and I didn't know to fight. My first enemy was the Germans, and my second enemy was the Poles. Now, I wouldn't say that everybody Jews in Poland would feel the same way, but we came from, they call it the Lithuanian Jews. We didn't speak that well Polish, because before the First World War, there wasn't Poland there. There was Russia. So like my parents didn't speak that well Polish, like people from Krakow, Warsaw, Lodz, and so on. They spoke a perfect. So we didn't speak, we had the accent. Like I'm having an accent right now, which is terrible in English, but I don't mind my accent right now. But over there, they hate the accent, and they could see right away that is a Jew, and they gave us a hell of a time.
In the beginning, you were surrounded by the Germans.
When we were captured around Warsaw, we were surrounded by, I mean, this is just a little story. We were surrounded in the forest by a field, and behind the field were a little village, were villages all around. And we were in the forest, and at night, 3 days before, we didn't eat anything. We just, I think, we find somewhere a piece of onions, and we ate a small piece of onions. We didn't have anything to eat. And I was with a very good friend of mine who made the liberation with me, who survived at the same time. We went to the army. He's from Vilna, Haris Sanders. His name was Haris Sarnievich, but he shortened it for Sanders. And we were together, and we couldn't see anybody, but we could hear all the time. There were wounded, so many, and they were just, oh Jesus, Maria, oh Jesus, oh Jesus. And we heard it all around, and they were crying, and it was going on. And then we were so hungry, so when they came out a little bit light, so we saw a tree about, I would say, maybe 20 feet from our forest. So Sander says to me, let's go, we see little apples on the tree. Let's go and get the apples. So I say, okay. So we went to see the apples. Of course, the apple wasn't even to eat, but it still is better when you are hungry, when you didn't eat anything. But we had bullets right in front of us and behind us. Zoom, 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 zoom. And we got the apples, and we came back to the forest. And my friend Harry says to me, you know, we are going to win the war yet, because the Germans, they don't know how to fight. They are not shooting right. If I would be there, I would already killed them. He was a very good marksman. And in infantry, where we belonged to, marksman was very good. He got special, even being a Jew, he got special prizes and for them, because he was a very good marksman. I wasn't a very good marksman like him. And that's what he said. So years after I told him that, then he said to me he doesn't remember it. But I did remember that.
Once you were captured, the Germans did not really know what to do with you, because you were not a Polish Jewish soldier, you were a Lithuanian Jewish soldier. You slipped through the cracks.
When the Germans finally came and they surrounded us, hand hoch, this means raise your hands. Certainly I was in the uniform, in the Polish uniform. They surrounded us. For a little while I did escape, and I was hiding, and then I came back to them. But the point is that the German couldn't tell that I'm Jewish. They couldn't tell. So when they went over, the Poles, they already heard it, then they are looking for Jews special. So they say, here is a Jew, here is a Jew. The Poles gave me away. So finally they got me as a Jew. But we were a group of 10 of us. Somehow somebody disappeared in the one. We were 10. All the time they took the 10 of us where they need work. So we belonged to the Stalag, but we didn't stay there. We couldn't survive there 3 months because we would be starved. But we went to work, and all different kinds of work. Where they need us, they did send it to us.
So as a Lithuanian Jewish soldier,
that's what we find out. Then we consider, because some Germans, we overheard say, there are jüdische, lithuanische Kriegsgefangene. Lithuanian prisoners, Jews, Lithuanian prisoners of war. But it wasn't there, because we were really from Poland in the Polish army. And that's how we survived. So we are thinking through the crack, as you said. I mean, you know, we just were lucky enough.
So when you were a POW in a German camp, for a number of years you received letters from your parents in Lithuania.
And because that time, in 1 year, more or less in 1940, when my parents were living under the Lithuanian, that's what I'm coming back right now. So they wrote letters to me. We could. I mean, there was the law, you know, from they could write. Of course, they went censored. I have all the letters. I think 19 or 20 letters. And they wrote to me, and certainly they wrote also to America to send me. What I want is packages. I wasn't thinking about letters. I was thinking that and they did send me a few packages, and I did get them a few packages, which it was a little bit food, sardines and so on, which I didn't get them 100% of the packages, but I got 30% or 20% was taken out. Maybe some of them I didn't get it. They were sending me a lot. That's what I'm finding out right now. Lately, I find out that I kept the letters, what they sent it to me, all the time. How I kept it, I wouldn't know. I kept it. I don't know why. I did kept it. And in the letters, I could see how much love I had for my family. My mother was going every day, she was sitting and she wants me to make a citizen of Lithuania. She thought if I would become a citizen of Lithuania, I could get out from prisoner of war from Germany and come over there in Vilna. If that would happen like this, I would be dead like they are all. I mean, I did survive because she couldn't do it, but she went. She was trying, and she even said it in the letters. I got letters from my cousins and from my brother-in-law, from my sisters, and so much love that all the worry they had is about me. And I didn't realize it then. 60 years ago, I didn't realize it. I was then worrying about a package if I will get them. That's all. Who did care about the letters? They was written in Polish and in German, not in Yiddish, because they didn't allow it. And all the letters was translated right now to English. And I could read them one time only. I read them, and really, I couldn't get over myself. It's something new, it's something different. After 60 years, I find out how much they loved me and how much they really was worrying about me and so on and so on. And they didn't know anything about going on the war.
Ironically, you were safer in a German POW camp.
That is what I'm saying. When I'm going to the war in 1939, or I get killed or I live. Ironically, in my case, I went to the war, I survived, my whole family behind me, they were all killed. That's my Holocaust. That's why they call me a Holocaust survivor. And that is the definition of the Holocaust, because they were killed instead of me. My niece, that's my oldest sister's daughter, was a beautiful girl, 18 years old, and she was murdered by the Nazi Weiss in Ponar, P-O-N-A-R. That was a forest 6 miles from Vilna. He was just talking to her while her mother and her younger brother was already dead by the ditch. They told her to undress herself, and if she wouldn't do it, they would stab her eyes out. That's what they told her, that Weiss told her. But she was beautiful, and he says to her, "You are too beautiful to be dead." And he talked to her, and then from his side pockets, he picked up his gun and he shot her in her head, and he left, and he pulled her to the family ditch.
In Vilna, there was a famous resistance movement, and there was a song born of that time, the Song of the Partisans. And I wonder if you would be kind enough to sing it for us.
Okay, it goes in Yiddish like this. Sog nit keinmal as du gehst dem letzten Weg, chotsch Himmeln bleien verstellen bloje Tag. Kummen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Show, Sveta poikter uns, so trott mir seinen Do. Von grünem Palmeland bis weißem Land von Schnee, wir kommen an mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh. und wo gefallen ist a Spritz von unser Blut, sprotzen wettert unser Gwure, unser Mut, mit wird die Morgens und begilden uns dem Heind, und der Nächte wird verschwinden mit dem Feind, nur ob versammeln wird die Sonne in dem Kajor, wie a Parolser ging das Lied von Dorf zu Dorf. Das Lied geschrieben ist mit Blut und nicht mit Blei. Es ist nicht kein Liedl von a Vogel auf der Frei. Das hat a Volk zwischen fallen dicke Wend. Das Lied gesungen mit Naganes in die Hand.
So when you were a prisoner of war, at one point you made contact in the prison labor camp with a Ukrainian girl who sent you a love letter, and it was discovered by the SS.
You know, we did like each other. I was young, I guess, and she was, and I spoke a little bit Russian. I couldn't be in touch with her. We couldn't see each other. I mean, we did see each other if there was a rain, and then we had to walk in a farm inside to bring the hay or to something else, you know, all kind of work. So we saw maybe we could talk a little bit, but very little. That's right, and she wrote me a letter in German, a love letter. If the war will be over, you know, and then we are going to meet and we are going to have a good time and so on.
And that letter was discovered?
The letter was discovered, that's right, by a German. And of course he thought that would be German, because there was a German written, and if there would be a German, I wouldn't be right now to
If it would be a German girl.
If there would be a German girl, I wouldn't be talking to you. But they say, that was Clara was her name. Clara.
So what saved you in this instance?
Then it saved me, then he found out that there wasn't German, there was a Russian, and he didn't care about the Russians.
But also weren't you a valuable worker?
Yes, but that was another one. When this officer, I don't know, assessment came, and he wanted to shoot me. And he took out his gun. And then the inspector, what they call it, the big chief from the farm, just came from nowhere with a big cigar, and he told him, wait, he's a good worker, don't shoot him. So he slapped my face, Jude verfluchte, and he drove off. What would he care? That was almost, the war was almost over. Maybe another month or so.
During the war, Shep, when you were a prisoner of war under the Germans, did you hear rumors of the extermination of the Jews in the East?
We did hear, but that already was by the end. I would say then in 1944. We heard and rumors went, then they have exterminating in Auschwitz, in a camp. I mean, we didn't know exactly. We did hear it. You know, things like this goes around. But we didn't hear exactly how that happened.
So you were with really the same group through much of the war.
All the time, and the same 10 people.
I wonder, you know, surely you derive strength from one another.
Well, I would imagine so. We were, that's right. We were together. We were, I mean, everybody had our partner. My partner was Harry Sanders. That means if we find a little, like one time he did get a soup that was in camp, and he had a big bone like this. And he was licking, so he gave me a couple of times to lick. He kept this bone maybe for 2 weeks.
A bone?
A bone. That's right, a bone. A bone for meat, you know. And the bone was already dry, but I will never forget it. He kept it, and he was my partner, sort of. And I could have a lick, he could have a lick.
Was there a moment when you almost gave up?
It was all the time. I went through a cycle of hell for 5 months, 5 years and 7 months. That's what it was. But it went through. It reminds me that I was stuck about 15 years ago in an elevator for an hour and a half. It's a terrible feeling when you are stuck in an elevator. Terrible feeling. But when you got free, you forgot all about it. Isn't it Isn't that funny? That I think about my being in Germany for 5 years and 7 months. These two things I cannot understand. How I survived 6 winters in Germany without Tylenol and aspirin, which I didn't have it, not good shoes. I don't know how, but I did survive. I am here. You see me right now. I'm here. I did survive. How? I don't know.
When did you learn that your family had been killed?
We learned that right before we were liberated. We know it. Nobody in Vilna was. We were all 10 of us from Vilna, and we did decide that we are not going back to Vilna because nobody was left there. Nobody. It's no use to go back to Vilna. We all want to go back to Palestine. That is a different story. We all want to, because everybody, I had a sister and a brother older than me. They were living in Palestine, which I didn't know their address. I didn't know what had happened to them. But we already had an inkling, except by any miracle, but nobody from our family. There wasn't enough for us to want to go. And not one of us, all 10 of us did want to go back to Vilna, Poland, back. We didn't want to. We were asked by the Russians because we were liberated by the Russians.
After the war, Shep, you didn't want to marry.
No, no, who would want to marry? No, we all 10 of us, when we came out after the war, we were liberated. 2 things we are not going to do. We are not going to marry, we are not going to have children. Who would want to see Jewish children tortured like we saw it? And who would want to get married? But we got married, we got children, we have grandchildren, they are giving back to the society. Well, life goes on, regardless.
Do you think
Right,
it can
yes.
happen again?
Not a Holocaust like we have it. Burn Jews, burn the people? No, and I will tell you why, just plain. We have Israel now. If we have Israel, that cannot happen again. Because I don't think that would happen. I don't think that they would burn the Jews in Auschwitz if Israel would be there. We are having Israel right now. Very strong Israel. They wouldn't let it happen. All around the world, it cannot happen.
You travel and speak to schools. We have been together. And I know the emotion, that accompanies your presentation. When you speak to kids, what message do you want them to get?
Oh, it's one clear message. With everything, what I want to get to them is the message. The Holocaust, in my opinion, cannot be understood. Nobody in this vile world can understand the Holocaust, but I want them to remember. I owe it to my family and to my people. And when they will grow up and somebody will come and tell them that the Holocaust never exists, they can tell them that's not so, because I heard Shep Zitler speaking, and I touched him, and I hugged him, and we shook hands, then the Holocaust did exist. And that is the message. That is my purpose, and that is my main objective, to come to talk. That's why I'm getting up sometimes early in the morning and I drive 60 miles. I don't get any money for them. It's just because I want to tell them that the Holocaust, to know that the Holocaust did exist. I don't want them to come like Irving right now in England and they come and say that the Holocaust never exists, because if they never exist, and I have more because I have proof. I have proof through a picture. Then accidentally, just by chance, I was there in that picture with my whole family in 1936 because of the honor then my oldest sister went to Palestine. And that's why they made a picture. And I got a picture right now, which I can show it to you.
Please.
That's my whole family.
Please.
Here is it. And that is, if the Holocaust never exists, where are they? This is me, right here. That's me. I was then 17 years of age. That's my mother. That's my father. That's the sister. She did survive because she left for Palestine. She's right in the middle. That's why they made the picture. But here is my other sister, my older sisters, my other sister, my younger sister, so at that time wasn't married, but during the war time she got married and she has a husband and a child, and she was killed, and I can tell you about the child how was killed, that is, if you have the time, but I don't think so.
How was the child killed?
The child was born in 1943 in the ghetto. Her husband was already dead. And her husband's brother's child was also born, 2 boys. Then a peasant girl, a Polish woman, wanted to take them and to hide them. But on one stipulation, they shouldn't be circumcised. So the other one, she kept it. That's been my sister's brother-in-law's child. And she went to my father, my sister went to the father and she said, what shall I do? And my father said, he's Jewish, he has to be circumcised. So he was circumcised, not in 1943, and they were all killed.
Shep, was it the right thing for your father to do, to insist on the child being circumcised?
That's what he was saying. He was very, very religious. But I wouldn't say it was the right thing at that circumcision. If I would be saying, I would say no. Then he would be alive. Listen. But it was for him that was right, I guess. My parents were very religious, true Orthodox. But none of our siblings were. None of our siblings. None of my brother, my older brother, and my sisters, my other, they were. Not me either. So that is my story in short. This is my family. I have letters now. I find out from my mother, from my father, for my little sister, and for my brother-in-law. He's Morgenstern, Michael, and I can prove it. Then the Holocaust did exist. I mean, this is not by talking, but this is by facts. Where are they?